Picture this. It's a Saturday afternoon, sometime in 1972. You've just returned home, still flushed and exhilarated from a day of playing outside. As you walk through the door, the familiar aroma of home envelops you, and your mum greets you with a simple yet iconic offering, a sandwich, lovingly wrapped in greaseproof paper. The bread, snow-white and soft, bears a generous slather of thick, creamy butter, and nestled within you'll find fillings that seem almost mythical today. Maybe there's the unlikely treat of crisps sandwiched between the slices, their salty tang offering a delightful crunch, or perhaps it's the indulgent sweetness of condensed milk or the savory taste of Shippam's paste from one of those small, memorable glass jars. These sandwiches weren't crafted to be culinary masterpieces. They were the sustenance of Britain, affordable and satisfying in a way that transcended their humble ingredients. In those days, meal deals and fancy modern concoctions like avocado toast were unheard of. But for those who grew up during the 60s or 70s, these sandwiches are etched in memory. The crisp sandwich, for instance, requires no grand introduction, just 2 slices of pillowy white bread, slathered with rich butter, and a hearty handful of crisps, typically cheese and onion or salt and vinegar. The art was in the press, just firm enough to secure the crisps without crushing them to oblivion. Each bite brought together the softness of the bread, the creaminess of the butter, and that satisfying salty crunch that was nothing short of perfect. By the mid-60s, this combination was a staple across the nation, from school cloakrooms to factory canteens, and on leisurely Saturday afternoons. With just 3 simple ingredients and no need for cooking, it was a snack that even a 7-year-old could assemble on days when mum was at work. While today some might dismiss it as carbs on carbs, back then, it was simply lunch. Then there was the beef dripping sandwich. Picture Sunday's roast leaving behind a tin in the larder, its top layer solidified into a creamy white fat. Beneath lay a layer of brown jelly, brimming with intense, salty, meaty flavor. You'd carve off a hefty slice of bread, spreading the cold dripping as if it were butter, before adding a generous scrape of that gelatinous brown jelly, with perhaps a sprinkle of salt or a touch of black pepper. In Yorkshire during the 1950s and 60s, this wasn't just food for those with few resources, it was a delicacy. The fat was luxuriously rich and savory, the jelly bursting with the essence of beef. Referred to as a mucky sandwich when consisting solely of the jelly, it harks back to a time when families, especially during the World Wars, treasured every drop of dripping, unrationed because it was merely a byproduct. By the 60s and 70s, this was as normal as could be, with every household boasting a dripping bowl. Yet, as health warnings about cholesterol and saturated fats emerged in the 1980s, the once ubiquitous dripping sandwiches began to fade from view. But those who remember know that nothing else quite measures up to that taste. And then, of course, there was Shippam's meat paste. Encased in petite glass jars with lids that opened with a satisfying crack, this paste came in a variety of hues, pink, brown, or beige, and flavors like salmon, chicken and ham, beef and tomato, or sardine. The aroma was unmistakable. With the twist of a lid, a potent, salty fragrance permeated the room. It was applied sparingly on bread, as the flavor was notably robust. In the 60s, school cloakrooms bore this unmistakable smell, rows of coats, satchels below, and somewhere amongst them, a lunchbox holding a fish paste sandwich since 8:30 in the morning. Come noon, it was a scent that mingled with the air. Back in 1955, Shippam's introduced one of Britain's pioneering TV adverts, featuring animated chickens and fish in an operatic performance. By the 60s and 70s, nearly every larder housed a jar. Offering cheap protein with a long shelf life and no need for refrigeration, it was a household staple. Finally, the sugar sandwich, which today might seem bewildering, was a childhood hallmark. Imagine 2 slices of tender white bread, slathered with butter or margarine, and then generously coated with granulated sugar until not a speck of butter was visible. Strange it might sound to the uninitiated, but for the kids of that era, it was a sweet, crunchy delight. Imagine assembling the simplest, most comforting sandwich. You press 2 slices of bread together and take that first bite. Instantly, you're greeted with a satisfying, resonant crunch that fills the room. As your teeth sink in, small granules of sugar rub against them, producing a seemingly gritty texture that soon transforms into a delightful sweetness as it melts in your mouth. This isn't a fancy dessert you're enjoying. Rather, it's a joyful, nostalgic experience, an after-school snack to bridge the gap between lunch and dinner or a treat to accompany a steaming cup of tea in the afternoon. For many, this was the go-to option when the pantry didn't offer much else. Sugar was cheap, bread affordable, and butter an ever-present staple in the household. You made do with what you had. While some families preferred the rich, robust flavour of brown sugar or added milk for extra adhesion, those in Scotland often took it a step further, rolling the sugared bread like a delicate pastry to give it an air of sophistication. On the flip side, Heinz sandwich spread offered something altogether different and perhaps a bit more polarizing if you didn't grow up eating it. To the uninitiated, the jar's contents might seem unusual. A thick, yellowish cream speckled with vibrant bits of vegetables, it had a decidedly vinegary, tangy bite that commanded attention. This spread, straight from the jar onto bread, seemed both exotic and straightforward. Launched by Heinz in the 1960s, this creation took inspiration from their earlier salad cream, dating back to 1914. It consisted of a creamy, sharp base in which finely chopped vegetables such as cabbage, gherkins, carrots, onions, and red peppers were blended, creating a texture that was both crunchy and smooth. It was marketed as a boon for the busy cook, a convenient, affordable option that required no preparation beyond opening the jar and spreading it on bread. The taste experience was undeniable. Each bite packed an intense punch, owing to the sharp tang of vinegar mixed with a subtle hint of sweetness and the crunchy texture from finely chopped vegetables. This concoction delivered a kick that stayed with you, forming a culinary experience that you either found irresistible or entirely unpalatable. One writer from the 1970s vividly compared its appearance to something unpleasant, likening it to vomit on the pavement outside a chip shop. Yet despite its aesthetically challenged presentation, it had a loyal following. Jars of this peculiar mixture were staples in millions of pantries. Then came the sweeping wave of mayonnaise in the 1980s and 90s, threatening its popularity. A close call in 2018 almost saw it vanish from shelves as Heinz considered discontinuing it, sparking outcry and ensuring its survival. Despite this preservation, it remains largely unfamiliar to those under 40 today. In times of financial strain or when fresh milk was scarce, condensed milk sandwiches made an appearance. These sticky delights, made from condensed milk hailing from tins, were thick, sweet, and found in every pantry, nestled at the back awaiting their moment. You'd begin by generously buttering 2 slices of bread, then meticulously spreading just enough of the rich, sweet milk to form a lush layer that wouldn't escape over the edges. It was an indulgence of saccharine bliss, especially for a hungry 9-year-old. Some inventive kids would mix it with regular milk, thinning it down, while others savored it straight from the tin, armed with a spoon. The creatively minded might even top it with a slather of jam. Nonetheless, by the late 1980s, they had largely disappeared. The chip buddy, however, endured the test of time. This beloved snack involved a regional assembly of a white bread roll, known variably as a bap, barm cake, or cob, filled with thick, steaming chips, the kind that came straight from the chippy. Doused generously in salt and vinegar, the butter or margarine would melt beautifully into the bread. During the 1960s and 70s, chip shops up and down the country offered them. Working men often found them a hearty lunch option, while families enjoyed them as a meal on Friday evenings. Ketchup, brown sauce, or, in some northern areas, curry sauce added flavour variations. It stood as the quintessential British hangover cure. The mashed banana with sugar treat was a ritual of meticulously mashing bananas with a fork until smooth, then combining it with granulated sugar for a grainy, sweet paste. This would be lavishly spread over buttered white bread. Its texture presented an intriguing contrast, creamy from the banana paired with a gritty sugary touch, yet the flavors harmonized splendidly. Bananas, once rationed during wartime, re-emerged in the 1950s as a novelty, but it wasn't until the simple mashers era of the 1960s and 70s that they became a staple, eventually leading to the plain eating trend of the 1980s. Another culinary staple, corned beef paired with Branstad pickle, provided its challenges with its iconic tapered can, demanding careful handling with a small metal key to avoid any injuries while unfurling it. Despite its tricky packaging, the solid block of salty, pressed meat was indispensable during both world wars when fresh meat rationing was stringent. Branstad pickle, since its 1922 launch, became the go-to pickle by the 60s, adding its signature thick, sweet, and tangy chutney flavor from diced vegetables in a vinegar reduction. The partnership was impeccable. Corned beef offered dense, salty satisfaction, while Branstad brought a balance of vinegar sharpness, sweetness, and crunch. Preparing it involved slicing the corned beef into quarter-inch segments and generously spreading the Branstad to complement it, resulting in a reliable choice for packed lunches across Britain. The Branstad kept the bread perfectly moist, while the corned beef delivered a hearty punch of protein, making it a satisfying choice that outlasted others simply because it was genuinely delicious. In the days before mayonnaise dominated Britain, salad cream and grated cheese reigned supreme in sandwiches. You take a good amount of cheese and grate it finely, then mix it with just enough salad cream to form a creamy paste that clung perfectly to slices of bread, creating a tangy, slightly chaotic, but unexpectedly delightful snack. The salad cream's slight tartness kept the cheese from drying out, offering a refreshing alternative to the dull combination of cheese and butter. But combining cheese with salad cream resulted in a simple yet substantial filling. By the 1990s, mayonnaise swept across the nation, overtaking the use of salad cream in sandwiches altogether. The combination of sardines and vinegar was another bold choice, starting with a can of sardines. Upon opening, you drain the liquid and place the fish onto a plate, mashing them thoroughly with an ample amount of malt vinegar. This vinegar had a sharp and robust flavor that cut right through the oily richness of the sardines, adding an invigorating bite. This mixture, spread generously over buttered bread, was both aromatic and assertive, leaving a distinct impression. If you brought a sardine sandwich to school, the potent, fishy, vinegary aroma would announce itself, leaving no doubt about what lay inside your lunchbox. These sardines were an affordable staple among the working class, packed with omega-3 long before anyone paid attention to its benefits, and the sharp vinegar was a crucial component that elevated the simple sandwich to new heights. The traditional experience of enjoying sardines on bread was dramatically transformed by the addition of vinegar. Without it, the dish would often be overwhelmingly oily. The vinegar's acidity was crucial in providing balance. However, as we moved into the 1980s and 90s, canned sardines gradually fell out of favor. The fish was deemed too robust in flavor, persistently fishy, and reminiscent of something more suited to the palates of older generations. A jam piece, a delightful staple, was not your typical sandwich but rather a hefty slice of bread, often cut directly from an unsliced loaf. This loaf was typically homemade or purchased from a local bakery, ensuring that each piece felt substantial in one's hand. The bread was sliced with a bread knife that frequently suffered from neglect, resulting in thick, irregular pieces sometimes reaching depths of 2 inches. The bread, once cut, was lavishly spread with butter or margarine, followed by a thick layer of jam, usually strawberry or raspberry. This was not delicate fare, it was meant to energize. Children often received a jam piece before heading out for a vigorous play or as a post-school, pre-tea time snack. In many Scottish communities, this custom was so ingrained that children could call out to their mothers from the street below, and down would come a jam piece wrapped in paper. Piccalilli, a distinctive mustard pickle, added a vibrant neon yellow hue to meals, thanks to the turmeric within. This culinary delight was a concoction of cauliflower, onions, gherkins, and other vegetables, all swimming in a thick, spiced, vinegary sauce. The taste was an exquisite balance of sharpness, mustard zest, and complex spices. Traditionally, leftover ham from a Sunday roast found new life on Monday as it was thinly sliced, placed on buttered bread, and crowned with a generous heap of piccalilli. This combination was nothing short of culinary genius. The ham offered salty, savory satisfaction, while the piccalilli delivered an invigorating punch of vinegar, spice, and crunch that enlivened every bite. Despite its popularity among adults, the bright yellow color often deterred children, who found it visually unappealing. But by the 1990s, piccalilli began to vanish from everyday use. Liver sausage, with its smooth, grayish-pink, spreadable consistency, was a lunchbox and canteen staple throughout the 60s and 70s. Frequently referred to by its German designation, Braunschweiger, it came in tubes or small tins. Its texture resembled pâté, but it was a more economical option. The flavor profile was rich, slightly metallic, and distinctly liver-based. It was typically spread over buttered bread similar to a Shippam's paste. Regularly featured in school and factory canteens, liver sausage was an affordable protein source with a long shelf life. Its bold liver taste was polarizing, loved by some and loathed by others who were put off by the intense flavor or smooth texture. Those who enjoyed it, however, were quite devoted to it. Fish finger and ketchup sandwiches brought a spark of excitement to children's tea time. Typically, 3 or 4 fish fingers, crisp and golden on the outside with a flaky white interior, were lined up between 2 slices of buttered white bread. A generous squirt of Heinz ketchup completed the dish. Ever since Bird's Eye introduced fish fingers to Britain on September 26, 1955, they quickly gained popularity. By the 1960s, they were ubiquitous, further cemented by Captain Bird's Eye, who made his advertising debut in 1967, propelling fish fingers to iconic tea time status. The concept of the fish finger sandwich emerged almost spontaneously from there. Hot fish fingers nestled between slices of bread and ketchup was simply a stroke of culinary brilliance. In the North, variations appeared with the addition of mushy peas or curry sauce, giving the simple sandwich a regional twist. What's truly astonishing is how fish finger sandwiches have stood the test of time and never vanished from our tables. However, those versions from the 60s and 70s had their own unique charm and appeal. The fish fingers back then were notably larger, providing a more satisfying bite and a heartier meal. The bread was always classic white, often with its soft, pillowy texture that perfectly complemented the crispy fish fingers. As if it were a sacred ritual, Heinz ketchup was always the condiment of choice, its distinctive tang and sweetness elevating the sandwich to nostalgic perfection. It became a cherished tradition, gracing Friday tea time with its unfailing presence, like a reliable old friend. It wasn't about luxury or opulence. It was about the familiar warmth and simplicity that resonated with a sense of comfort and belonging. It tasted unmistakably of home. If any of this stirs a memory for you, we'd love to hear about your favorite fish finger sandwich from the 60s or 70s. Maybe it's the one your mum lovingly crafted or the one that stands out best in your recollections. Share your stories in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to help us keep these cherished memories and stories alive for generations to come.